Alright, YouTube. For our first review, we're kicking things off with Spelunky 2. Why? Because it's at the top of my son's list. It's one of his favorite games. And we felt like, why not, right? Maybe it's a game that not everybody has heard of. So, as you can tell, it's a fun little... It has retro vibes to me. Feels like something you would see like on Super Nintendo or something like that. Little 8-bit thing going on in the character. But overall, it's a cool little fun game. So, kicking things off, first of all, graphics. We gave the graphics a 0.7 out of 10. Why? Well, for obvious reasons, you probably wouldn't consider this game to be top-notch graphics, you know, something like God of War or something. But it's still polished. I mean, as you can tell, it's purposeful. You know, it's got, like I said, it's got a little 8-bit kind of retro feel, but it's polished, it's nice, it's clean. So we gave it a solid 0.7 out of 10. Think that's fair. Next up is story. Give story a 0.5 out of 10. Reason being, first of all, we do not want to give spoilers away on this channel, so, you know, we're going to try our best not to ruin games, just give an honest review. But story, we gave a 0.5 out of 10, mainly because it wasn't that long of a game. And wouldn't necessarily say this game was focused on story. Like, we wouldn't say that it was, you know, one of its top priorities, right? So 0.5 out of 10 on that one. Audio. The audio is great. The sound effects are great. It's kind of got, you know, it's got some elements of Mario in there even, you can kind of hear. But the music definitely sets the tone, sets the vibe. It's got great music, great soundtrack. Fits the levels, keeps you energetic, right? Keeps you playing. Value is up next. Now, we gave this a 0.4 out of 5. Reason being is because the price point's about $20 retail, which isn't bad. It's not, but it's not an enormous game, right? Like, I mean, it's definitely not a $60 retail game. But the reason it gets a 0.4, even though you might think $20, well, that should get a 5, is because it runs on sale a lot. I mean, I've seen this game on sale like several times, and it can get as low as like $8, I think, is the most recent sale. So, couldn't really give it a 5 out of 5 for that reason alone. But it's still a very fair price value, so 0.4 out of 5 on that one. Difficulty fairness. We give it a 0.3 out of 5. Now, difficulty fairness isn't necessarily like if a game's extremely difficult, it's just gonna, you know, get tanked, like we're gonna tank it. No, that's not what we mean by that. It just means like, for example, like take Mega Man would come to mind. Mega Man is kind of like, it's difficult your first run through because like random things, like it takes a lot of memorization, right? Like a lot of trial and error, and that's where you're gonna get docked, just because if you're running through the first time and something pops on the screen and kills you, and there was no way you really could have known that or prevented it, that's not really fairness, right? So we gave it a 0.3 out of 5 because it's a little tough, it's a little challenging, but it's pretty good. I mean, I would say it's fair and it's fun, it's engaging. You're gonna die a few times, but it's reasonable. You know, save feature, give it a 5 out of 5. I mean, it's got great. You know, I mean, I know save feature is not necessarily the menu system, but it's got a great menu system, great save feature. You know, obviously saves all your characters, things like that. So, and it's not a long enough game to really have to judge it like on quick saves and things like that. So, not gonna punish it. We give it a 5 out of 5 on that one. Gameplay mechanics. That gets a 10 out of 10. This game is smooth. You know, very responsive, right? I mean, you ever pick up a game, right, and you're like, you hit left or right and it doesn't really react right away? Yeah, not a fan of those. This one is smooth. You hit a button, That's what happens. And everything else just along, like jump mechanics, you know, as you can see, the slides, you know, it feels right. So it is really solid in that aspect. We give it a 10 out of 10 on gameplay mechanics. Next up is flow. Give it a 0.4 out of 5 here. It flows nicely. There's some parts where it's like just a little bit where it slows down a little bit. Maybe doesn't hold the momentum as much, but overall it's a nice flowing game. It's 4 out of 5. It's really good. How does it compare to other games in the genre? Well, I think it stacks up pretty nicely. I think it's exactly what you would expect, you know, out of a game like this. I think it holds up. It's fun. I think it compares to the rest of them. I really do. I think it holds up with them. And we give that a 0.9 out of 10. Would you recommend? We give this a 0.3 out of 5. And if you're such a fan of it, well, why don't you give it a 5 out of 5, right? Well, because with a game like this, you couldn't necessarily recommend it to everybody, right? I mean, that it's not to say that it's not that you can't recommend it. That's why you get to 0.3 out of 5. But it wouldn't be a game that I'm just like, you gotta play this. You absolutely have to play this game. It's top notch. You have to play it, you know? So 0.3 out of 5 we felt was fair on that aspect. Completeness, which means did you get a complete game, right? Like, did they finish the game? It wasn't broken. It wasn't pay to win. They didn't make you buy like 20 DLCs just to feel like you got, you know, a whole game. Completeness is 10 out of 10. It is a full game, and you feel like you got a full game. It's great. Flex on them. That's our category. It's more of a feeling, right? So flex on them is like when you were playing the game. Did it just have that feeling like it flexed on them? Like, did it flex on games? You know what I mean? Like, was it just out here stunting? Like, alright, did it have that feeling like, I love this game, it's unique, I'm feeling it, right? That's kind of what flex on them is, and we give it a 0.9 out of 10. Reason being for that is just, it has a great feel. I mean, it really does. And, like, as you can tell, it looks like it has, like, some Indiana Jones type vibes, you know? It's got the retro feel. Great characters, a lot of characters. Enemies are fun, you know. It felt great. So 0.9 out of 10 on that one. Last but not least, flat out, did I like it? Now this is our take on really a 1 through 10 kind of thing, where how did we feel about it personally, right? And flat out, did I like it is a 10 out of 10. This game is great. Loved it. My son loved it. I've played you can also play multiplayer, and I've done that a few times with my son. It's great. He really enjoyed it, man. Like, there's just nothing much to say other than he loved it. So 10 out of 10 on that one. Now, what is the overall rating? When you add them all up, all the points we've given it, you get 84, which is an 8.4 out of 10. So, should you get this game? I would say if you're into these types of games, absolutely you should get this game. If this doesn't look like your cup of tea, well, you might not like it. But, you know, it's a lot like some Mario's, kinda, like simple little platforming, you know, kind of thing. So if this is your cup of tea, I would absolutely recommend it. 8.4 out of 10 is pretty solid to me. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time.